Welcome back, Keepers of the Flame. Okay, so now we're going to get into a little bit more detail on the adrenal gland functions and what happens, what mode you might be getting into, and how to kind of not necessarily counteract it because it's there for a reason, but how to process it, how to incorporate it into a workable system, because you don't, contrary to what everybody else wants you to believe, you don't override this system. You don't. You learn to mechanize it and incorporate different coping and how can I put this? Not necessarily a coping mechanism, because people have really negative connotations attached to those, and there was a very small box on how to think about that. So I'm not saying coping mechanism as in like alcohol or substance abuse or going out and distracting yourself with video games or porn or toxic relationship patterns, whatever the heck it is. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not. We made it into a coping mechanism, but a mechanism that is going to help you process through that rather than giving over to the instinctual process that's happening. So you don't negate the process. I don't know where that concept came from, but you don't just shut it off. There's no shut off valve. You either process through it or you stuff it down into the unknown in the subconscious, because, you know, whatever around you is not allowing you to bring that up for processing. It's telling you blame, shame. Usually, when you're dealing with blame or shame, it's because of the fact that you're not looking at the core issue, or you're not being allowed to look at the core issue. So anytime you find blame, shame, scapegoatism, whatever it is, those are distracting mechanisms that are put in place to not let you go deep, to not help you work through that happening that occurs naturally in your body that does not have a shut-off valve. How we're going to work through that in a way that is going to be not necessarily counter it, but conducive to a more healthy lifestyle, rather than ramming our adrenal glands into a systematic dysfunction that now we're not really ourselves anymore because we're not allowed to be, if that makes any sense. Because there is a burnout point. There's definitely a burnout point on the adrenal function. Okay, and we're starting to kind of see the truth of that kind of bubble up a little bit more. So let's start with fight. I did make notes on this. Fight doesn't always have to mean put your dukes up. That's not always the case. Sometimes it's just a verbal argument. Sometimes it can be petty and passive aggressive, which is like, there's whole channels dedicated to that, I guess, like watching petty videos, people being weird and petty. Yeah, we'll get to it. Hang on. That'll probably be the last episode. I'm going to do an episode on each one of these, or a video, whatever, not episode. So when there's actual physical abuse present, you need to get yourself out of the situation. You're not going to get through to the person. It's already too far gone. So this is a cycle of abuse, okay, that's being played out. Now, this doesn't always mean, that your significant other has to be part of this. This could be a family member, a coworker, a sibling, a child, whatever the heck it is. It doesn't matter. So, knowing your basic rights and what the basic human functions are for yourself are a really key component. Knowing your rights, read the Bill of Rights. Go read the Bill of Rights. Go read it. That's a huge step in the right direction. Knowing your rights as a sovereign human being here in this existence. That's really empowering. So that way you don't feel like you need to be bulldozed because the other person claims to have the upper hand. Know your rights. Know what the basic pyramid of human function is and what keeps it going, okay? What keeps you going, because the other problem with that is like not every human is designed the same way, and some of us need other things. Some of us have a different way of living, and other people have a different way from that, and other people have a different way from that one. So it's a remembering not to peg everybody in one specific hole, and because that's when we get into a really clusterfucked situation, when everybody has one square peg, and if you don't fit in it, bullying starts to occur. Hence why this is such a problem, I would say. Just minor. Just a little issue. So, when we're in any sort of situation where we're being triggered, you ask questions. Just ask questions. What's going on right now? Assess the situation, break it down. That person said this thing because of this particular situation, or this situation's happening and this person's having this response, and that person said this to me, and what's really going on here? How is this situation actually playing out? Ask questions. Ask other people around you, or ask the person that you're dealing with at the moment more questions. Continue to ask questions. What makes you say that? Why did you say that? How did you come to that conclusion? What's the procedure for this? What is protocol? What do you expect from this situation? Yada, yada, yada. Start asking questions. And if you can get them to kind of give you a broader narrative of what's going on, you can then, not for the purpose of understanding the other, because sometimes that means like you need to jump into the crazy train. And you don't want to be on a crazy train when it's going in the wrong fucking direction. There's a couple different crazy trains. There's one that is going off a waterfall. There's another one that might be going to crazy town. And there's another one that's like, I'm thinking outside of the box here. So before you jump on any trains, ask questions about where you're going, how you're going to get there. What's the reasoning and logic behind how we drew this map to getting there? Like, all those modalities of existing. Why are we going in this direction? What's its purpose? What are the steps we're taking to get there? Is this doing good? Is this producing a positive outcome? Because if it's not, it's probably going to put you in one of these 4 things. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Okay. So this is Pluto and Aquarius. Okay. Everybody keeps saying something about death and I don't know. I'm not even going to tell you who said it. But Pluto, yeah, planet of death. It's moving into Aquarius. It's leaving the material world of Capricorn, which is physical, and moving into this whole thing of air. So when we're talking about this Pluto death thing, it's a death of old, outdated ideas that are no longer serving us or haven't been serving. Pluto will take away all the things that suck. And we've been conned into believing that those things didn't suck. Okay? So, okay. And it's just right here. Maybe some waterways. Okay? How we treat our water, how we process our water, how we clean ourselves, how we clean the environment, the waterways we use to get there, our inner ocean, and how the rivers flow, and all that other stuff, all the fluids within us. Salt water is going to be huge. Okay? So understanding that that's the way it's going to work. Yeah. Well, hello, sweet love. Me too. Sophie decided to chime in. So kind of get your mind out of that fear state and into the mental state of, okay, this is an air sign, and it kind of rules the waterways. So veins, vessels, things like that. Start clearing those out, right? And we're going to see people not having to work so much. So the stress itself is going to start to be able to be worked with and assessed. So when we're coming into this mode of existing in this flight, particular one that we're trying to get into right now, the assessment of what you're responsible for in this situation and what you're not responsible for. Delegating that out, like, okay, this has direct impact on my life, so I am definitely responsible for it, versus that person is going through this thing, and out of my bank of reserved energy, I'm going to give this much of energy, resources, thought, time, space, whatever it is. But it has to be of your giving. You have to be mentally clear that you're giving to give, not giving to get. That's a lot of people kind of misunderstand that a little bit. Because they're like, well, if I give this, I'm going to get this back from the same person. Well, no, you give to give because it's good for society. It's good for the community. But you never overgive to the extent where you're in depletion and suffering, and no one's obligated to come and help you. They're not. And that's where we get trapped into this whole situation and scenario. And then the arguments start to arise of, hey, I've been giving this for this long. Where's my outcome? Where's my productivity? Where's my result for when I need something? Okay. Understanding that when you are giving to receive, there needs to be honesty. Again, Pluto and Aquarius, truth. You do not get to escape that. So just be honest. Be like, I'm going to give you this and I expect this in return. And if they look around and be like, what are you talking about? No. You're like, okay, I can't make this transaction then. And there's no shame in that. You take your resources elsewhere and be like, okay, I will offer you this and you're going to give me this. And if they say no, you just move on. There's no thing that says you are in any way, shape, or form obligated to give to anything. And that's the thing too, is that's it's another modality that we're probably gonna end up arguing over, is where we're giving our resources and why aren't we seeing a positive outcome? We've already started to see that. It's gonna amplify. So when you're getting into these switcheroos of mental roles that you have set up in your own internal environment and are not stating them honestly on the outside, and you're looking to manipulate the situation by holding your hand out and like scooting the other hand underneath, expecting like a little something under the table, that's gonna be a no-go. Okay, so understanding those contractual needs and bringing them to the table honestly is going to actually negate a lot of arguments. Okay, so nipping it in the bud before that's actually sparked is the best medicine. So what's going to spark a fight? Difference of opinions and ideas. Okay. Ways in which we make exchange. That's Aquarian energy. The waterways. How we give and receive. Okay. So negating it is one thing. And then if you do get into whatever it is, understanding that like when you have a situation that's unfolding right before you, your greatest source of any power at all is going to be your discernment. Is this worth my energy? Is this not worth my energy? How can I leave this in a dignified manner and still not allow this to continue to fester? Not dodging the bullet on out, but standing in your truth and your peace. That's the problem, is usually when things get triggered, we reach for the weapon of choice, which is multiple different things for multiple different people. If we could stop reaching for that weapon and go, okay, I need to seek to understand by asking questions. I need to seek to be brave and stand in whatever it is that I need to face. And then I need to understand how my discernment is going to serve best in this situation. So, remembering what you're responsible for, remembering what you're not responsible for, honoring that, doing no harm first and foremost, but allowing no shit. Okay, this whole narrative doesn't mean that you need to be walked on. That's not what this is about. This is about you standing up in integrity and saying, I don't want to engage in this sort of behavior or facilitate this type of interaction any longer. So I'm going to use my discernment to decide how I want to proceed with this. Is it worth my energy? If it is worth your energy, you need to find your peace immediately and navigate from that spot, not from the anger piece. This is why shadow work is important. You don't navigate from anger. No, war was won in anger or some crazy ass shit like that. Okay? So navigate from peace. Okay? Now, you don't need to worry about the other party. Their wounds will heal on their own terms, but this will heal your wounds like nobody's freaking business if you can learn to immediately, and Aquarius will help speed this up with the Pluto movement in Aquarius. It'll start coming faster, the assimilation. Be like, okay, see what's going on here? I noticed that I'm getting hot under the collar, and here's what we're going to do about it. Or I'm noticing that person getting hot under the collar, and then maybe you can step into some sort of leadership authority of the situation and be like, okay, here's our options. Here's how we can handle this in a dignified, peaceful, and loving manner. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, the radicalness. Okay, so knowing that there will be parasites that come into this, knowing that there will be people that just want to watch the world burn, right? So not looking to sympathize with that, but understanding that they know no better. They don't know another way of existing. If they did, they would probably choose that because the pain and suffering they're feeling is ridiculous. And again, you're not responsible for that. It's not your fault. You didn't choose that path for them. You did not choose to shove them in that teeny tiny hole. Okay? That was their whatever. Okay? It's your responsibility to take control of yourself. And if you can bring some light into the situation and just be like, did you want to look over here? Bring your flashlight in and be in the dark. All like, hey, we have different options other than this black and white paradigm here. So remembering that when you get stuck in that mode and not giving into it, right? Honoring the process that your body has given you to raise those alarm bells and say, this is not the situation that is going to serve me best. But I know how to best serve this situation. Knowing the difference. And then from there on, know exactly who, what, when, where, and how it was operating and learn to navigate away from it. And oftentimes the situation will just fall away. This does not mean that the other people in this situation are automatically going to change, assimilate, and whatever else. You can cast seeds of whatever all day long. That doesn't mean that those seeds are going to fall on fertile ground. So it is not your responsibility to stick around and hope and facilitate the growth of those seeds. That is on the other person's soul. Okay, so again, going where things are uplifting. Yes, we all have to face situations in life that are not going to be conducive to a healthy growing situation. That's how we learn, right? But understanding and honoring yourself to remove yourself from that adrenal gland kick as much as you possibly can. Okay? So there's as much as I love Inside Job, it was still this cluster of people that did not get along at all. because they were dealing with certain narratives. It was a beautiful show, but at the same time, there was still this weird conduct that they had to treat each other like absolute freaking shit. That I was like, well, I guess some workplaces are like that. And again, they're working for a corporation or whatever. So, and that's probably going to fall away too. So getting to this state of peace and sovereignty when you're met with the flight response, because that's going to be your superpower. Rather than giving over to anger and getting all hot under the collar, be like, okay, what's the root of this situation? And for those who have done the spiritual work, can see the patterns. You can say, okay, there's the source of it. There's the root problem of it. It's not my responsibility, but I can react in a different way because I have the knowledge of it. I can respond in a peaceful, calm manner, and I can simply continue to ask questions. Not necessarily for the benefit of although it will be a ripple effect, but it's for your assimilation and understanding. Okay? You can breadcrumb them into a little deeper mindset of what's really happening, but it's up to them to follow. This is for you and your base foundation of peace and sovereignty. So you continue to ask those questions that keep popping up in your mind. Why, what, when, how, who, blah, 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 blah. Give me the breakdown of the situation, okay? And I think that's all I really need to say about that. So, moving forward, when you're triggered, write down the situation in as best way as possible. If you get a chance to speak on the situation, absolutely speak on the situation. If you don't get an opportunity to speak on the situation, and maybe like your boss is just barking orders, and you feel like this is not a very healthy, conducive way to move the company forward, or you feel like this is not a healthy, conducive way to move any relationship forward, now you've been gifted the opportunity to have the time to process, right? And then go back to whatever source of it is and say, hey, I sat with this and I thought about it, and here's I have questions, I have concerns, I have whatever it is. And again, stepping into that authenticity and that curiosity with the knowledge that you have your personal rights and that no one is supposed to be violating them. No one's supposed to tell you that, you are, even though you go to work for 12 hours a day and haul ass and do this, and there is productivity, and they still come up to you after they've seen you work a 12-hour shift, and they're like, you're not doing enough. You just spent all 12 hours giving your vital life force energy to, and most likely interacting with a machine. Possibly people. It doesn't happen too much anymore because, well, and even if it does happen, the corporations have become too for people to actually care. It's just the parasite is running dry of its source, if you know what I mean. So when we're dealing with these sorts of situations of interaction that we know these people probably have no concept of what even their own best interest is, you can still be in that energy and be around them. Now, yes, that might make you a target, absolutely, but understanding that and still holding your ground is really important, okay? So being upfront and honest and forthright, okay? And choose a little bit more freedom on the outside of your situation that you're dealing with. Choose a way to have an outlet for that, whether it be through a hobby. Maybe it's exploring new jobs, new locations to live, whatever the heck that means for you. Start exploring those avenues. And word to the wise, all you corporate folk, I'll piss off some people right now. CEOs are going to come for my ass. You ready? Buckle up, Buttercup. You got your 5-pointer? Got your 5-pointer? I got some insight. If you've been working for a company for a hot minute, just do the silent quit thing and they'll give you a severance pay. But my kid says, no, you can't go out and get a corporate job in like the next 2 weeks and then demand severance pay in the next 6 months. That's not how that works. But if you've been there for a hot minute, just don't stress. Don't lose your mind. They will definitely, try to force you out the door, but don't lose your cool. And one day you'll probably be taken to the office to be like, look, you know too much and you know we're fucking it up. Here's a large lump sum of money. Now go away. And then you just tootle out the door. Okay? Love you. Go tell your neighbor. Okay. I'm going to get into flight in the next video. So again, keeping your cool, finding your peace, repeat that. Maybe make that your ritual for 21 days. Think of something that triggers you. Go watch some new podcasting. Find the core of it. Find your trigger in it and reel that fricker back in and be like, how can I simulate this? What's the most proper response to this? How am I going to interact with the similar energy that I'm meeting right here out in public, in the workplace, whatever it is? Find something that triggers you and start practicing the assimilation process of getting better and more proficient and quicker at knowing exactly how to find your peace, your sovereignty, knowing your rights, and then speaking it immediately. Pinpoint and navigate. What's the core root of this situation? You don't need to speak on that. You can, but you will automatically be put in a space of peace if you have that knowledge. Then you can start making wise decisions and use that discernment to navigate you in a better direction. Okay. Again, understanding we do not have personal sovereignty over anyone else but ourselves. So keep it right here, but move it in that direction that is best for you. Okay? I'll see you in the next one. Until then, keep your flame.